Hello everyone, I am Becca, the Conservative Filipina. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here. In today's video, we're going to talk about the popular trend among lonely Asian women. If you're interested in this topic, please keep on watching. Hello guys, I'm back. I was out for almost 3 weeks now. I went on a short little trip with my family. I will be posting some snippets of that vacation on YouTube Shorts. If you're interested, that will be posted soon. Also, if you are on Facebook, I've started 2 Facebook pages. One of them, the same name, Conservative Filipina. I regularly post there because it's much easier to do that. If you need updates about me and my family, you can find us there. Also, if you like photography, we also have a photography page called Skeptical Solutions. I will be posting both links on my description below. So thank you guys for your support. All right, so today we're going to talk about the topic of the epidemic of loneliness, but we're going to focus on how Asian women are coping with this loneliness. A lot of women continue to convince themselves that they don't need a man, and yet the epidemic of lonely single women continues to grow. In Asia, there's a couple of popular trends women are using to cope with this loneliness. So we'll start with China. In China, there is a trend, a popular trend called man moms. I have to slow that down. I can say it properly. So in China, young women are paying about 50 yuan, approximately $7 for 5-minute hugs from men called man moms. This unusual trend is growing on Chinese social media, and it offers comfort during those stressful times. Apparently, it's very popular amongst college girls. You know, a lot of them are very busy with school. They don't have time to date. During exam times, they're very stressful, especially those who are trying to finish their master's degrees. So when they go through that stressful times, they go and pay for this 5-minute hugs. Now, at first, man moms meant strong, muscular men. So I guess that's one of the qualifications. You have to be physically fit, but also you have to be good looking. Now, when it comes to the good looking, in East Asia, there is this term called baby face but luxurious body. So a lot of these men, I know it's kind of bizarre, but a lot of these men they have this boyish good look. So they look really young, but yet their body is like very fit. That's what these women are looking for. But now women choose who to hug based on qualities like kindness, patience, gentleness. So they're looking for a man who has boyish good looks, muscular, physically fit, and also exhibit or show some feminine traits. I know it's a little bit of a contradiction, but that's what they're looking for. So the stressed out, emotion-starved women seek paid for solace from fit men who display feminine traits. Now, some of you will find that kind of weird. You'd think, what, the 5-minute hug? But you know what? The 5-minute hug has so much benefit to a woman. It does a lot of good for a woman. I personally feel like whenever I'm stressed out or anxious, I just ask my husband for a hug, and it's like a pill. It just makes you feel so much better. Now, I was curious about that. What's up with the hug that makes women feel better? I looked it up, and this is what I found. It's very interesting. It says that, hugs has a lot of psychological and physical benefits, and here are some of those benefits. So hugging has numerous scientific benefits, including reducing stress and blood pressure by lowering cortisol levels and increasing oxytocin. That's very interesting, which promotes feelings of bonding and calm. It can also boost the immune system, alleviate pain by releasing endorphins, and strengthen social bonds. So no wonder why every time I feel stressed and anxious and my husband hugs me, it just makes me feel so much better. It's like a very potent medicine. So I understand why these women are paying for this 5-minute hugs. It makes sense. So these meetings are arranged through chat apps, and hugs usually happen in public places like the subway station, the malls, maybe even a restaurant, a park, maybe even the school grounds. So I think a lot of these women are also thinking about their safety. So some women feel that paying for the hug makes the situation safer and more respectful, because you can avoid misunderstandings. Both parties know what they're in for. The woman needs a hug, the man needs money, so they get paid for the hugs. So I guess some think it's a good setup, I guess. But it's kind of sad because you could literally get like unlimited free hug from someone who loves you by just finding that finding a good man. All right, but that's what Chinese women are doing to cope with the loneliness. All right, we'll move on with Japan. What are Japanese women doing to cope with loneliness? So in Japan, there is a popular trend called the boyfriend rental. Now, men are also doing this. And in fact, in Japan, I remember this. Conan, when he went there a couple of years ago, he rented entire family. That's kind of a really sad situation in Japan. A lot of people are choosing to remain single, to live alone. And that's what's happening. A lot of people are lonely. So during the holidays, apparently a lot of people get lonely. So you can literally not just rent a boyfriend, a girlfriend, you can rent an entire family. Conan did it. I'm going to try to attach a picture. He rented a wife, pretend wife, a daughter, and it even came with a grandpa. It's kind of hilarious, but it's also very sad. So that's what Japanese women are doing. They're renting boyfriends. So in Japan, you can now pay to rent a boyfriend without the commitment. I think a lot of women are doing that for that reason. They want the idea, they like the idea of a boyfriend, but they don't want the commitment. Apparently, there's nothing silly about this setup. So there's no physical, well, nothing that kind of intimacy. So intimacy is off limits, but rather it's a popular option for tourists who want an authentic relationship experience. I'm not sure if you can call this authentic because everything is like pretend. And since the other person is getting paid, I'm sure they'll show their best self. But apparently this is very popular for those who are solo traveling or want someone to hang out with while they do excursions. Now I saw a girl. I think she's also on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe TikTok. I'm gonna try to, attach a photo of what she did, like an experiment. She hired a boyfriend. She wanted to there's a couple of girls who did this, Japanese girls. They wanted to maybe have a company while they're doing grocery shopping. Maybe they want someone to carry their groceries. Or some even on their days off, they want to go on a date, they want to take pictures, go to the park, watch a movie, like things that you do with a boyfriend. So some women are finding that the process of buying their dates are easier than buying groceries. Oh yeah, because a lot of these are, done online, on these apps. So some say it made them want to have a real life boyfriend. It made them realize, it's nice to have a boyfriend. But unfortunately, others were convinced that they don't need love, that they just really need like a company for a couple of hours and then they could basically, get rid of the person after that. So it's just, some of them even just rent a boyfriend for picture taking. That's kind of sad. So a lot of these women want the idea of having a boyfriend, but they don't really want the commitment. So when they get lonely, they could just go to the app and rent a boyfriend. They say that they'd rather pay for a pretend boyfriend than have a commitment. However, some women mention that the cost of renting a boyfriend is too pricey to get addicted to. That's kind of funny. Now it reminds me of I watched this documentary on this Japanese women who work as hostesses. A lot of them work in clubs and they work hard and make a lot of money, but then they would spend all the money in the host club, which is where the men are working. It's kind of ridiculous, but that's how women are. That's how people are, dealing with loneliness in Japan. A lot of people don't think about it, but in Japan, because of the technology, a lot of people just don't have any more interaction with other people. They're all online and just, yeah, that's a very sad thing happening. But that's how Japanese women are coping with the loneliness. We'll go to the Philippines. Yes, you'd be surprised. You'd think this is only happening in first world, East Asian countries. It's also happening in Southeast Asia now because the dynamics is changing a little bit. In the Philippines, there is a newly launched app called Pangga, which is a Visayan term of endearment, which translates to my beloved. So this app-based technology allows singles to rent a pretend boyfriend or girlfriend for various occasions, such as weddings, maybe even work events, and including social media status changes. I know that's kind of strange, but I do see some crazy women using that for that specific reason. Now, I mentioned before that a lot of women in the Philippines are in the workforce. A lot of them have very high education, have master's degrees. So a lot of them get into management type positions, supervisors, managers, directors, executives. And I also noticed that a lot of these women are choosing to stay single. And with that, you know, the loneliness comes. And when you go to like social events in the Philippines, I've mentioned this before, that if you're single, let's say you're gonna attend a wedding. If you're single, everybody gonna be hounding you about why are you single? Why you're not dating? When is it your turn? Make sure you catch the bouquet, all of that. Now, if you want to avoid all that questioning, that's probably the reason why women are hiring someone to bring into this, you know, weddings. Reminds me of that movie, The Wedding Date, I guess. Now, social media status changes. Yeah, that's kind of strange, but I do see some scenarios where women could use this app for that specific reason. Now, as I mentioned, apparently this has sparked interest among local executives, both men and women alike. Because again, a lot of these people are choosing to prioritize their career. They don't want to get married. They want to focus on work. So with that comes the loneliness, and if they need company, then they could just book it online. Now, the reaction on this is a little bit mixed. You know, of course, those people who will use the app, who has used the app, will find this to be very beneficial, but the local authorities are a little bit concerned for potential misuse. And I already see potential misuse on this app because it will make it so much easier to book people. You know, and the country has problem with, I'm not sure if I can say the word institution or escort services. I mean, some of those people in that business will infiltrate this app, using the app to make it so much more easier to book people. That's not good. All right, so those are some of the popular trends women are using to cope with loneliness. Despite the popularity of these trends, the rise of female loneliness is the struggle of the modern women, and I think there's many factors contributing to this. Some people would say it's modern feminism, it's the lifestyle, it's the culture, it's social media. I think all of that contribute to the rise of female loneliness. And also, it's not just women who's suffering from loneliness. I read an article on this that says a lot of men are also suffering from loneliness. In fact, there is an epidemic of loneliness worldwide, specifically in first world countries. I think that's worth looking into. Why is this happening in first world countries specifically? Now, if you are on social media, you will also notice that there is this social clash between men and women, and I think social media has a lot to do with that. Social media and cultural narratives can further intensify these conflicts by promoting confrontational us versus them mentalities. There's always this competition of who's more important, who can do what, who can live without the other, and what can the other person bring to the table. It's just on and on bickering of who can live without the other person. Why don't we just all admit that we need each other? That men are important, women are important, we have different roles to play, and life would be so much better if we just try to get along. All right, I'll leave this video here. If you have any comments you'd like to add, you're more than welcome to do that in my comment section below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on my next one.